And so these early Norwegians wrote, we live under a generous government with land and natural resources and freedom in a fertile land. We know how fertile the United States is, where freedom and equality prevail in both civil and religious affairs. That wasn't true necessarily in the old country. And without any special permission, we can enter almost any profession, make an honest living. What does that mean? We all could write our own ticket. You come here, and if you have the guts and the determination and the drive and the ambition and the talent, the cream rises to whatever level your ambition takes you. That's the gift that was America. And so we didn't necessarily have a lot of rich people that came to the United States. And that makes a lot of sense. Why? Because if you're rich, if you're pretty well heeled and pretty well established in the old country, are you going to sell that? Are you going to sell that situation, all that you have, or if you're a merchant, and risk it to take a 13-week boat ride? That's what it was to get over here. Not a lot of rich people came. If you're nobility, are you going to roll the dice and come over here? No, not a lot of nobility. Who came? It was the cream of the crop as far as I'm concerned, because the people who came to the United States were the best of the best. And they were risk takers. They were risk takers. They wanted to work hard. They wanted to take a risk. They wanted to do something new. They wanted to do something different. They wanted to better their life, and that's why they did it. My family, they had a farm. They sold it. They sold everything they had. They sold the cattle. They sold absolutely everything. All they had was enough money to buy that ticket when they went down to the dock, the heavy woolen clothes on their back, and what they could carry. That was it. That's all they had. And so the family went down to the dock, got on board the ship with the 5 kids. Now think of this, if this is you. Turn to your spouse if you have your spouse here, or think about your spouse or someone you love. Think about saying to that spouse, say, I have an idea. How about if we sell everything we own? Let's sell the house, the cars, everything. Let's sell it all. As a matter of fact, let's say goodbye to your parents and mine. Let's say goodbye to everybody we know. Let's say goodbye to our friends and our church. And by the way, we're in our 40s. That's how old our parents were when they died. But let's go ahead and take a risk right now and sell it all. And I tell you what we'll do with that money. We're going to buy a ticket on a 13-week voyage on a little ship where a lot of people don't necessarily survive the voyage. And by the way, let's take the kids. What do you think? Are these extraordinary people? I love these people. I love them. They weren't just Norwegian. They were Irish. They were Czech. They were Poles. They were Germans. They were Italians. They were Canadians. They were all of the above. They were mixed. You know who these people were because they were your people. This is our story. We are the most unique nation in 5,000 years of recorded human history because these are the kind of people who came to this country, and they're still coming. And I am so thrilled that this is our history. For 234 years, wave after wave of ingenious people have come to this nation. Ingenious because they didn't have enough money that they could just sit back and do nothing. They had to survive. And they did survive because they used their wits and American ingenuity and innovation to be able to make it happen. And it continued to happen up through my husband's parents, who came here as young newlyweds from Switzerland in 1950. They got married, and in Switzerland in 1950, it was pretty socialistic. The average farm was about 20 acres. My father-in-law was born to be a farmer. He could do nothing else but farm. That's all God wired him to do, but he was the third son. And as the third son on 20 acres, it was hasta la vista, baby. However you say that in Swiss, I'm not exactly sure. But my father-in-law loved my mother-in-law, but he loved farming probably even more. And he just decided this is it. And so they rolled the dice. And they had a little newspaper. And in the newspaper was a picture of a farm in Wisconsin, a dairy farm. And so they saw that picture. They got some money together. He had been a soldier in the Swiss Army. They got their money together. They put the money down, decided, let's get married. They got married. They took the night train to Paris, stayed there for a day, went to the Eiffel Tower, got a picture, got on the train, got on the boat, took the boat from France over to New York, got off the boat, got on a train in New York, took the train all the way to Winona, Minnesota, got off the train in Winona, Minnesota, bought a beat-up old used car, somehow in Swiss. I have no idea how they did that. And then they drove 30 miles out to this house that had been abandoned for 75 years, a mud driveway. The car got stuck in the mud, and they walked the half mile up the driveway. They were young and in love, and they had a farm, and they were thrilled. And this 75-year-old farmhouse, my mother-in-law told me that on the first night they slept there were holes in the bedroom walls, and snow came in April on their bed. And that was the beginning. And for the next 60 years of their life, my father-in-law, the hardest working person I have ever met in my life, and I know this is a room filled with hard-working people. I'd put him up against any of you. He got up before dawn every morning, worked like a maniac, and he took that 600-acre farm, turned it into 1,200 acres, which, hey, for us, that's a big deal. For you, that's not even a postage stamp here in Montana, but hey, we're kind of proud of it. And he worked, and he realized the American dream, and all he ever did is work. How many can say that here? I bet half this room or more, probably 95% of you, it's the same bloomin' story. Isn't it a great story? It's a great story. It's a great story. And it's one that's been replicated over and over and over. Why do I spend so much time to tell you that story? Because it is something that we can continue to preserve or we can lose. And I'm concerned right now about the narrative of losing that story for a couple of different reasons. We're in a very different situation right now in the last few years. And part of the reason why we're in a very different story, it's not hypothetical. It's because our national debt is now equal in some ways of approaching a foreign crisis, of a foreign totalitarian aggressor. When Nancy Pelosi took over the gavel, do you realize it was in January of 2007? That's how recent it was that she got that gavel. And by the way, wasn't it a pleasure, Denny, when John Boehner had to pry it out of her hands? Remember how she held on to that thing? But we got it! We got it! In 2007, when she got the gavel, our national debt was a scary, heart-palpitating, somewhere around $8 trillion. When she left, it's about $14 trillion. So all of U.S. history for 234 years, and that's including the big spending George Bush, remember, $8 trillion. She adds $6 trillion to it in 4 years. There was a reason why we had to take the House of Representatives back. We had to. We had to. And we did. Yay! Well, now President Obama is in the midst of what I call his reign of error. And according to the Congressional Budget Office, they are projecting that under President Obama, if he wins a second term, and by the way, that will not happen. Okay, are we all in? Are we all in? Won't happen. That's right.